Huh. Oh, okay. Let me adjust that. Okay. I made it unlisted, so that's good. I wish I could hear myself, though. That would be awesome. Okay. That's unlisted. That should work. Okay, so I go over here now. Okay, and then if you click the link. Perfect. Okay. So it all makes sense now. That was way harder than I thought it was going to be. Thank you for all of you who had the time to join me. I'm sorry that there's no picture. My Logitech does not apparently work with Google Hangouts, which I just realized because I did not realize that that was how the stream was going to function. It's my first time using the live stream option on YouTube. So I'm just figuring it out, being awkward and clunky as always. So let's see here. I followed all of the instructions that it told me to. So I'm pretty sure that I set it up the way that it's supposed to be set up. Next time I will have a working webcam and all of that good stuff, I promise. But I'm just happy that I figured out how to make it go live, and that's great. It's really embarrassing, but to get it to work, I actually had to watch a tutorial by like an 8-year-old. So, you know you're old when. Anyway, I know I don't see any of you here yet, but I'm still going to scroll over to the page where all of the questions are, because you guys left some really great questions. Oh, I see. Okay, can I edit this? Does that work better? Cool. Awesome. Okay. Boop, 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 ba-doo. Great. Okay, for anybody who's listening to this after, it's going to be so much pauses. Those pauses are just me trying to figure everything out. Again, I'm sorry about that. I don't know why I'm so nervous about doing a live stream when I do the videos all the time. I guess it's just different knowing that it's instant. It's more like an actual conversation, but different than the fan conversations because you can have so many more people listening at the same time. I've done a couple of these on Amino and they're really fun. The only difficulty is there you can have multiple voices at the same time, and sometimes people end up chatting over each other, which can be a bit difficult, but on the whole, it's a lot of fun. I really do enjoy using the Amino. So it's 5 minutes after. I'm going to give a few more minutes and see if anybody else joins, and then I'll go and start answering some of your questions. It's a really nice, lazy Sunday morning here. After this, I'm probably going to script some headcanon theaters and moments in fandom history that I've got knocking around that I'm really excited about. I really have to do one about Hux and just the fanon surrounding him after that Kylux video, because the fanon surrounding him is so amazingly detailed for a character who really was not that fleshed out, at least on screen. And I have to say, I love his cat Millicent. And the more people that know about Millicent, the better. So, yes. Cool. I just like watching the audio lines go up and down. It's very early Outer Limits for me, seeing it radiate out like that. I'm getting a kick out of it. The other one I want to work on is the whole Trunks are back thing, which I'm such a 90s kid that when I first heard Trunks are back, I thought about Dragon Ball Z. I was like, Trunks is back? Yes, but no, they mean the Trunks is in Superman's trunks on his costume, which I am equally excited about. And it's going to be fun to talk about because we talked about Wonder Woman's pants, so I think it's only fair that we talk about Superman's trunks. Just, gotta be equal with the superhero costume changes if we're going to talk about them. It's a fun time. Sometimes Twitter is fun. Sometimes Twitter can be scary and a bit overwhelming, especially if you got caught up in a trending hashtag or a text chain that you got tagged in and you're not sure how exactly that happened. But if you're actually looking for things that you're interested in, it can be a really good time. I enjoy Twitter, not gonna lie. Okay, so I'm going to give 3 more minutes, and then I'm going to do questions. My dream is ultimately to be able to live stream a lot more often. Once I get my daughter on that sweet regular sleep cycle goodness, it's going to be a good time. All right, let me just make sure there are no errors and nobody's commenting that they can't see it or anything like that. Scroll in. All right. Let's do this. I'm going to load all the comments at the same time. And some of you guys left multiple comments, which is 100% okay. I love answering any and all questions, so this is going to be a good time. So I guess I will start with Savannah Goodwin, who asked me, out of all the Robins, which one is your favorite and why? Robins. So many Robins, about 6, 7 at this point. We've got a lot of Robins to get through. I have to say, I enjoy all of the Robins for different reasons. There are some that I enjoy more or less. I would say of all the Robins, I enjoy Damian the least, and I enjoy Dick Grayson the most. He's the classic Robin. He's the archetypical sidekick. He starts the entire sidekick movement. He's there for you to identify with, and he actually is allowed to have some growth and develop into a hero in his own right. So he is definitely my favorite Robin. Also, the dynamic between him and Batman, even as it evolves and changes over time, I feel is very balanced and very interesting. And I just like watching him grow as a character. So definitely Dick Grayson, but the others are all good too. They all have their pro points. Even Stephanie, even though the story that Stephanie appears in is just, there is a lot of controversy in how she died and how her character was killed off. And I can completely understand why they had to bring her back to life, because there were some interesting comics back in the day that had some questionable choices. Let's just leave it at that. All right. What else? Oh, I see. Lauren Wilson, do you have a general favorite genre for fanfic? Like, do you prefer smut, hurt comfort, fluff, etc.? I do have a favorite type. It is the missing scene or the expanding upon an ending. So I love when people continue from a movie book and just keep going as if they were still writing it and continuing the story, but from their own slant, be it a ship or just something they wish had happened. And I love the missing scene because there are so many times when you're watching a movie, reading a book, and you jump from one scene to the next scene, and all of a sudden people are getting along or not getting along. And you're just sitting there like, well, when did that happen? How did this happen? How did this come to be? And that's when I feel that fan fiction for me really shines, even though there's so much amazing work in all of the categories. But for me, that's the one I always find myself going back to over and over again. Who else? Oh, have to answer this question from Karen Elson. Karen Elson asked, the ultimate question, Marvel or DC? Well, come on now. We can have both. You can be both a Marvel and a DC person. But I have to say, in my heart of hearts, they're sending me to an island. I can only take one set of my comics to read, and I have to leave the rest behind me forever. I would take my DC comics. I do find that I have more of an affinity for a lot of those characters than the Marvel ones. Not that DC has better stories than Marvel or anything like that. It's just DC heroes are ones that I continually gravitate back towards. If I'm going to pick a comic off my shelf, it is very likely that I will maybe pick one of my DC classics that I've read a bunch of times before I even pick up one of my new Marvel ones. It's just, I started with DC, and that might be part of it, although Marvel was so close behind. I started with Batman, the animated series, when I was a kid, but the Spider-Man awesome 90s series that maybe someday will be released for general ownership and not just on Netflix, that followed really quickly. Also, the X-Men. So I like them both, but yeah, DC just a smidge more for me. And I think another way I can measure that is that I often go and read DC fanfics more than Marvel fanfics, even though the MCU fanfiction online is just a juggernaut. There's so much of it. It's a really good time. Who else do we have? Ooh, Lucy HP asked, my English improved greatly thanks to fandom. Did you ever want to learn another language, be more involved in one? And I can say yes, most definitely yes. I already speak French and a little bit of Spanish, but I've always wanted to learn Japanese. I'm really into anime. I know you wouldn't know that from my channel because I don't talk about it that much, but I love anime. And while I do enjoy a good dub, and I don't think there's anything wrong with dubs, lots of them are simply better in the original Japanese. And I've always thought it would be nice to be able to just listen to it and understand without needing the subtitles. It's a very different language than English. I've picked up a word here or there just from the amount of anime I've watched and started to be able to suss out the grammatical sentence structure a little bit, but nowhere near close enough to being anything like understanding or being able to speak it. That would be the one thing. If I had the time, I would love to learn Japanese. It would be a great side project, but right now my time needs to go to reading because finding time to read with a young child is very difficult. So my extra time often goes into sneaking maybe half an hour here or there to read, or sneaking time to do something like this. Let me do another quick check. Alrighty. Who else? Oh, Presto Puma asked, do you ship any video game characters? If so, which ones? And now you're learning. There's a lot of audio editing that happens in my videos because I trip over my tongue sometimes. I do, and it's Dragon Age, and it's Alistair and myself. No. But okay, it's Alistair and the sorceress. But admittedly, when I played it, I did play with a really big slant towards being with Alistair, and that did affect how I played. I would have made different decisions if I hadn't been so in love with Alistair, I think. But he's designed to be that way. He's designed that you're supposed to care about him and want him to be the king. And there's a reason that in the sequels, the default option is that you made him king. I'm sure there are very few people who chose the other path to not have him take his throne. Who else we got? Oh, Marco Waters asked, what was your favorite video to research? I enjoy researching for all of my videos, be they the really deep, complex, controversial ones or the silly ones about crack ships like Drapple. They're all a lot of fun. I think my favorite one to research might have been Wump. Looking back on just how I felt looking stuff up, I think Wump, because Wump took me back to a fandom that I had not seen for quite a while, and that was Stargate SG-1. So it was amazing to be thrown back into that fandom and just remember how big it was and how amazing it was and how into Stargate I was back in the day. I was looking through clips and I was like, that's that episode and that's that episode. And it was, wow, I really watched a lot of Stargate back in the day. Speaking of, I have been doing research for the coffee shop AU that I'm going to be doing a video on shortly for me. When I say shortly, it could be a couple of months just based on my schedule, but it feels like shortly to me. But the coffee house, spoilers for people who are on here, the coffee house actually originated in Stargate Atlantis. And that is amazing to me and so wonderful because of all the places you would have expected that trope to emerge. I doubt many people would have guessed Stargate Atlantis. So I'm really looking forward to doing that one too. That's going to be really fun. Jamie Bednarek asked, what's your favorite episode / moment from the BBC Sherlock series? Also, what did you think of season 4? I love it, but I can see why people didn't like it. Okay, well, let's start off with what I think of season 4. I liked it, not as much as the other seasons, however. It felt the least Sherlock-y of all the seasons. Not that the acting was bad or the writing was bad or anything like that. It just felt that it moved the furthest away from the Sherlock source material, and also that it was starting to get a bit of a complex about how amazingly intelligent Sherlock was. The show always fetishized his intelligence, which is fine because it balanced it off with him having lots of flaws. But it really got to that point where it was just, come on. I mean, we know he's great, but can you ease up a bit? And that twist at the end, which I won't spoil for people who might want to catch up, that twist was a bit, I don't know. I had a hard time getting behind it. I know some people just felt it was very fanficky. I don't think that was the problem with it. It was just, for me, not very well executed. But that's just my opinion. As for my favorite moment in the whole series, I got 2. One is series 3, Let Me Flick Your Face. I don't know. Something about that scene, Let Me Flick Your Face, it made me laugh so hard. And every time I see it, I quote it. My husband and I quote it all the time. We're trying to do something and we'll just be, but will you let me flick your face? So it's a good time. I also enjoyed, even though it was slightly mocking of fangirls, the scene where they're having the Sherlock Club and the girl puts forth her theory that Sherlock and Moriarty ran away together and faked his death. I really enjoyed that. It was cute, even though it was kind of, oh, that's silly. Why would you think that towards the fangirl character? But it was just cute to see that ship acknowledged in some way. Sherlock was a good time. I need to rewatch it soon. I'm going to do more videos on Sherlock. Let's see. Hammer and Gear. Are you familiar with the Transformers franchise? There are multiple ships within the large fandom. I am familiar with it, not as much as I should be, but I'm definitely aware of it because my brother is hugely into the Transformers fandom and he's actually been writing his own fan fiction for it. So I need to keep up so that I can figure out what his stories are about and stuff, because he always wants me to beta and ask for feedback and stuff like that. So I want to know what he's talking about. So I am aware of it, and maybe someday. Transformers there's a lot more Transformers than just the movies, which is, it's a shame that a lot of people don't know that. There's this huge, rich history of cartoons, comics. It's a juggernaut, really. It's doing really well for a series that, you know, essentially was kind of toy based, but that's all right. Let's see. Pot outside of Nick Mobblepot. Outside of Nick Mobblepot. Ah, I can't talk this morning. Yes, yes, I do. I don't know if you've noticed, but recently I've been trying to go through more ships in the fandom at once because while I enjoy hopping back and forth just maniacally from one fandom, one ship to the other, I think it helps people who are viewing when there's a bit more consistency and that we cover more ships from one thing at once. So I'm going to try to do that more consistently. Also, romantic, yes, Hemlock Grove does not got enough attention, so it would be really cool to bring attention to that. Also, because the lore is interesting, particularly around the way they handle vampires. So, vampirism is always an interest of mine. So, whenever I get to talk about it, I'm down. All right. I need to sneeze, and I'm fighting the urge. I will not sneeze on the live stream. I will not sneeze on the live stream. No, I'm singing. Now you know I sing to myself. It's a thing. Let's scroll back up and see what... Ah! Let me see if I can pronounce this. Isaiah is... I'm sorry I'm mispronouncing your name. Isaiah Gomez. As a woman, is it harder to ship girl/girl? I ask because I'm a guy and it's very difficult for me to ship guy/guy. For me personally, no. I'm drawn to ships more on a narrative level. Whenever I get a ship, it's because I feel there's a lot of potential for them narratively in some capacity, even if they've never met. Like a My Strat situation, where just because there's something you can draw upon, you can create some kind of shared backstory. They have some core character similarities. You can see an arc or even an AU where they would be amazing together. And that's what draws me to a lot of ships. And maybe that's why I have so many and even multiple that conflict within the same fandom. But it doesn't really matter to me what gender, race, orientation the pairing is. That doesn't factor into it. For me, shipping isn't a conscious choice where you sit down and say, like, okay, this is man A and this is man B, and they should be together because XYZ. It's more of like when I used to make fan vids, I would hear a song and then in my head, a picture would start to form of characters and what they would be doing to the music. And that's very much the way that I feel when I am shipping. It's just like when that happened, I guess a good example would be the DC EU, sorry, not AU, when Batman smiles when he sees Superman for the first time and he shows up on the battlefield and he's Superman again. For me, that's a moment and that adds to wanting to ship them. It's little things like that. So I hope that answered your question, which there's a long, rambly answer for that question. I'm so sorry. And you actually had another question that piggybacked off of that one, which was, why is there so much guy stuff on your channel? I do get that question a lot, so I appreciate it, and I appreciate the chance to be able to answer it. And the reason is because that's largely what dominates the fandom. It's not a choice to exclude other ships or anything like that. It's just when you go to most fandoms, their dominant ships are male. And hence a lot of what is popular, requested, or even just historically available is guy. That isn't to say those other ships aren't there and that they shouldn't be focused on, because they should. But it just, when you're deciding your videos based on a combination of trending, popularity, what people request, and the vote, then it ultimately ends up being like that. I often feature girl pairings within my votes, and they rarely win. In fact, the only way I got one to win was by doing an exclusively fem/vote. So while it is very popular with the people who enjoy it and ship it very fervently, overall, it's not so much, which is how it ends up coming to dominate a bit on the channel. But I think all ships are interesting and they have something unique to bring. So I think they're all worth discussing. All right. Let's see. Oh, and I guess I answered Cecil's question while I was answering that, because his was, what makes a good ship for you? Is it the chemistry they have on screen, or more the interesting stories you can tell with them? Interesting stories first, chemistry second, because there's some on-screen chemistry that's just not there, and yet you see so many ships in the fandom, and that's part of what makes fandom so fun. Let's see. Sokatir asked, what pushed you to make your channel / make videos on ships? I've answered this before, but I always enjoy, because I know not everybody hears where I answer it, because it's often the Fanversations or a really long video, so I'll answer it here. I made this channel because I was really into ship manifestos on LiveJournal back in the day. And I noticed that those didn't often have a con section. It was very much, I ship this ship because it's awesome and amazing. Here are some cool comics or episodes where you can see it. But there wasn't another side to it. And lots of times I was coming to a ship manifesto because I didn't really understand a ship, or I wanted to know more about it. So I thought it would be interesting to have something that examined a ship from both sides. And when I went to YouTube, I realized that there really wasn't anything there. It was very much exclusively on Tumblr, LiveJournal, other outlets like that. So I decided to just do it. Also, the channel was different back in the day. The videos were a lot shorter and they were a lot less research. At first, I thought I was going to go for the typical YouTube fluffy, fun, just, you know, yay, it's all a good time. But I feel that as time went on, I found my style a bit more, which was blending that with the analytical approach, because I do find that interesting too. And I think it is possible to have fun and enjoy something and be analytical at the same time. Savannah Goodwin, I see you again. You asked, do you like Harley Quinn with Joker or Ivy? Who is the more interesting couple? I can't decide. You can't make me decide something like that. They're both interesting. I like them both for different reasons. It really depends what kind of mood I'm in, what kind of story I want to read. I think they are both amazingly interesting, and they both have potential to have fantastic stories when written well. When written badly, they're both awful. But I think you could say the same about any ship, to be honest, or any pairing, rather. Ooh, more shipping questions from Savannah. Who do you ship more, Rogue and Wolverine or Rogue and Gambit? Well, here I do actually have a preference, but I think it's rooted in childhood nostalgia, and that's Rogue and Gambit. Whenever I think of Rogue and Gambit, I think of Rogue and Gambit from the animated 90s series, and they were just adorable on that series, especially the episode where she finally got to kiss him in the Savage Land. And yeah, I'll always have a soft spot. Although you didn't mention one of the other big Rogue ships, at least it was big. I don't know if it still is. Rogue and Magneto. That was an interesting one. I hope that's still happening somewhere, because that was really intriguing and had a lot of potential. Karen Elson. She also wants to know, if you had to only choose one OTP from all fandom, what would it be and why? Is it a current favorite, or have you been interested in it for a long time? I don't think I can choose just one OTP. I really don't. I have too many. I know I said I would take all my DC comics to the island and that would be the choice I would make for DC versus Marvel, but I don't think I could pick just one pairing. I cycle through my pairings, and if I have a pairing, I usually come back to it. There's rarely a pairing that I drop, no matter how long it's been. And they just cycle in how interested I am with them. Right now, I'm really back on my Night Owl 2 and Ozymandias kick from the Watchmen. That hasn't cropped up for a while. I think it's been years, but I went and reread every single fic that is on the net for them because I love them. And I made the mistake of not saving them all because one of them vanished. And I'm really sad because it was my favorite one. Okay, it was my second favorite one. My favorite one's still there. It was my second favorite one. But I am still sad because I remember specific lines from that fic, and I'm so bummed that it's not on there. But of course, do I remember the title or who wrote it or anything useful? Of course not. Why would I remember anything useful like that? No. So I'm sorry, I can't pick one. It's too hard. It's too hard. I have too many ships. I think back early. If you had asked me this years ago, though, when I first started shipping in fandom, it probably would have been Louis and Lestat from the Vampire Chronicles. So I am pretty stoked that they're doing a series, and I hope it represents everything well or as well as it can, because it's a complex work with a lot of uncomfortable themes. And these days, it's very difficult to get uncomfortable themes out there without them being jumped on right away. And especially because a lot of those themes have to build like with the child vampires and stuff. So I really hope it gets a chance. And Brian Fuller's doing it. So I'm hopeful for something just decadently sensual, even when it shouldn't be, which is a lot like what Hannibal was. So I'm excited. Oh, Karen also wants to know, have you ever considered putting all your research and ideas about shipping, the history of it, into a book and publishing it? I can't say that I have. No. I've never thought about that. It could be interesting, but I've never actually thought about it. I do still think about writing sometimes. I used to write novels a little bit, so sometimes I think about going back to that, which I think would be fun. Let's see. Just Me wants to know, will we be seeing any Game of Thrones ships in the future? Please. Yes, we will be seeing some Game of Thrones ships in the future, definitely. I always like to compare books and the actual adaptations when they both exist. So that's part of why it's been taking so long, because you got to read through all of the Game of Thrones novels, Song of Fire and Ice, as it was called back in the day. And that's a lot of material to go through. But I am very much looking forward to tackling some of those, especially part of me wanted to wait until the series was finishing, because it's always easier to examine something as a whole rather than going through something that's still developing, say like a Clance or a like in Voltron with Clance, because then you have people commenting on your videos that like, oh, I guess you haven't seen season 3, and then season 4 happens and there's just crickets. So it's always easier to examine a work as a whole than as it's developing. Although one could argue that there's the potential for more videos as it's developing, but it just really depends on how you want to present your analysis, I think. Do I have any? Yes. Ooh, Trisha has a long one. Let me just skim it and find the question in it. Doo-doo-doo. Also asking if I ship any pairings from games. And like I said before, yes, I do. I see some of yours are the Male Inquisitor and Dorian. Yes. I went back and replayed so that I could be a male Inquisitor with Dorian, because I couldn't, because I was playing as a female Inquisitor. So I had to replay the entire game because I do things like that. The Telltale game series, I'm really enjoying the Batman Joker arc as well. I'm looking forward to the next episode. I really like the Joker's character design in that. It's a really good blend of part realistic while still keeping true to its clownish design. So I don't know if that's helping me ship it a little bit, because it is. I think it would be interesting to go back, because we did bat jokes in general, but to break down the different bat jokes from different genres, because say bat jokes from the Lego Batman movie is so different from a Telltale bat jokes or a comic bat jokes. It could be interesting. All right. Denise Fisher asks, what are your oldest ships? Where did it all start? Also, you made a vid about favorite ships. What are your least favorite that you can't help but ship? So my oldest ships, I've said it before, but Vegeta and Goku, Louis Lestat. It started all from that fanfic that one of my friends printed off and brought into lunch in the cafeteria in middle school, and that's how I discovered that fan fiction was a thing and that you could enjoy it and read it, and it's a wonderful discovery, and I'm so glad. Thank you, Zach, forever. What are your least favorite ships that you can't help ship? I don't think I have any ships that I actively dislike, but I'm still shipping. Huh, do I have any ships that I'm like low key not interested in, but I'm still shipping? Now I'm thinking, I'm pondering this. No, I don't think so. Wow, do I like all my ships? That's insane. I have so many ships. That's crazy. But is there anything that I can't help but ship. I'd have to say, after doing all the Star Wars research, probably Kylux. Going through Kylux, it really all started to make sense, and I really fell in love with all of the fan art and the fan and backstory. It was the fan and backstory that did it for me. Sometimes the fan and backstory is so much better than the canon one that you're sucked into a ship or an idea of the characters that actually doesn't really exist. It only exists in the... Oh, found it. Least favorite. Wolfstar. There we go. I ship Wolfstar, but it's not something that I am actively drawn to. It's more of an acknowledgement that, of course, that you have chemistry and it would make sense, but it's less of a ship that I personally enjoy. Also, I'm so looking forward to doing Wolfstar. It is going to be amazing. I'm looking forward to getting back to all of the Harry Potter ships because Harry Potter is just such an amazing, fun fandom to be a part of. Savannah, what is my favorite Wonderbat moment? I have to say my favorite Wonderbat moment is This Little Piggy, DCAU, Justice League Unlimited, where Batman has to sing Am I Blue so that he can get Wonder Woman returned back to her form by the sorceress Cersei because she's been transformed into a pig. It sounds ridiculous, but it's a really cute episode and a really cute moment. Oh, and you also want to know favorite Clark and Lex moment from Smallville. Early season 1, when Lex is helping Clark run for class president and they have all the cheesy signs that are his logos and slogans that they will be when he's Superman in the future, like Man of Tomorrow and all of that. It was a cute way to add that kind of stuff in. I enjoy little tongue-in-cheek nods like that. So for me, that was my favorite Clark Lex moment. Also because my favorite Klex fics are ones that take place in the future after Clark is Superman. And the two of them having to navigate the fact that they're now enemies, but they have this strong history of friendship. Because in my headcanon, Lex still remembers, because that show, every 2 seconds, Lex was forgetting, then remembering, then forgetting again. So in my head, he still remembered, but he separated Clark and Superman as 2 distinct different entities. And that's how he could still try and kill him and remember that at one point they were really close friends and he was trying to buy him trucks and giving him rides to school and all kinds of other just totally normal friend things. 100% normal. Nothing weird at all. Have I gone through all of them? I'm feeling very proud of myself. I think I have. Wow. I'm doing so much better than I did in the other Q&A when I had to leave so many behind. Yay. Yeah, scroll. Oh, almost missed Lucy, but I think you know the answer. Is there any fandom where you only have one ship? No. No. I think I have multiple ships for each fandom because the way I view shipping is that I see the potential narratively, like I said earlier. So there's so much narrative potential for so many ships. That's why if I kept going with the Star Wars series, which part of me wants to, but I'm going to restrain myself from going too crazy, we would be going through everything. We'd be going through Faye, Finlow, Ho, which is the best ship name this side of Dickstroke, and just for Haldo, Leo, just everything. Because there's so many ships. So many. I love Poe, even though my husband called it Pucks, but it's still good. So yeah, again, I wanted to apologize for not having the camera portion up and running. I really thought that my webcam would be good for it because, well, it's good for the Skype, but I guess what's good enough for Skype is not good enough for Google Hangouts, and that's all right. But like I also said earlier, I am looking to do a lot more live streams and stuff like this, and just more chatting and more answering you guys' questions, more going through our favorite moments in different shows, works, whatever we're discussing. It's really fun, and it's a very quick way to talk about these things more directly, and I'm into that. So For those of you that could join me, thank you so much. I know we're all in very different time zones. I know I have a lot of people in Australia, the UK, and stuff. So I know that 10 a.m. EST might not be the most conducive time for everybody. We might be able to work on that too, finding a time that works better for all of us. But I think I got to work, and I think I answered all of your guys' questions. And yeah. So now I need to do the fun part of finishing off the 8-year-old tutorial that will explain to me how I put this up and share it and all of that fun stuff. So now for the embarrassing moment of having to have the end of your live stream explained by a child. That's all right. Thank you for everybody who could join me. I hope I answered all of your questions. I hope you enjoyed it. And this is something that you guys would like to maybe see again. And yeah, so we'll see you guys next time. And as always, keep on shipping, because there are as many ships out there as there are stars in the sky. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, whatever it is that you're doing. Okay, thank you.